Hey y'all, welcome to another action-packed episode of ARG Presents. I am Amigo Aaron, joined as always by a man who's as handsome as he is smart, John, boat of cars, Schaller.
I can read.
Very Enough said. So, if you tuned in last week to ARG, you'll recall that the wheel was spun, the deal was made, and the chat room picked this week's system. And what a choice, Boat. This week, two Southern Americans are going to be playing games on the beloved ZX Spectrum, or as we call it, the ZX Spectrum, over in these parts.
Y'all.
So, we had to learn a lot about the ZX, didn't we? Despite the fact that we had one, which our good friend Gary sent us a while back, and you actually have taken this thing out for a spin, as I recall, once or twice. We've got some nice software that lovely folks have sent us.
Yeah, O'Brien's Retro and Vintage, I think, sent us some stuff, and maybe even Chris Foles.
Yeah, and we have no experience with it aside from what we got in the mail, right? So we had to do a little research to see what this thing was all about. So, of course, I'm sure this is old hat to a lot of people, but the ZX Spectrum, developed by the Sinclair Research folks, and according to the wiki and a couple other places I looked, manufactured by the Timex Corporation, which is interesting because the only entry that this unit had in America was as the Timex Sinclair 1000, I believe it was, and there may have been the 2000 or whatever. Do you remember the time? This is way back. So
I have no recollection of that other than in the Hurricane Middle School Tech Ed room. Yeah. I think there was a poster of a Timex 1000.
Someone was really getting crazy. I can tell you that no one bought these. I remember having, even as a young person, I remember having these things had a rep for being junky. I mean, the Timex Sinclair. I don't know what the comparison is. Doing some research, I found out the Timex Sinclair had some real compatibility issues with this ZX Spectrum, which would make it all but useless.
Right.
And when I was doing some research for our talk here, I could not find any Timex Sinclairs anyone that I knew had ever owned. So, like, I don't know anyone that ever owned one, and I'm guessing you don't either, right?
No.
So this thing was released in the UK on April 23rd, 1982. So a good ways back. And discontinued in 92. So it had a pretty good run. You know, think about it. That's a heck of a run for a system.
It is the C64 of England.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's, according to what I read, it sold 5 million units, and that's not counting any of the offshoots, clones, that sort of thing. It was pretty much everyone had used a tape drive with it. Now, I believe they released I want to say 3.5 inch, 3.25 inch floppy drive. So it might have been even some unusual disc that only this ZX Spectrum used, but I mean, as far as I know, it's pretty rare. I mean, we've never seen it, but I've heard about it.
I've only heard about people running tapes on their ZX Spectrum.
Yeah. The CPU in this thing is a Z80, which is a pretty common processor. A lot of arcade machines had them. 3.5 megahertz, which is that's way down there. And
it's 3 times as fast as an original Apple II.
There you go. But we know which one we know more about here. Clearly, is the Apple II. So you were in the UK for a time. Did you ever run across any of these things over there?
Only one time. I was visiting one of my professors during his office hour, and we got to talking about old computers and things. And I've always been fascinated with the UK gaming scene. And he's like, "Let me show you something." So he goes to his file cabinet, and in the bottom drawer, he pulls out a boxed ZX Spectrum. He's like, "This was my Spectrum. You may look at it if you wish." So, I know the reverence that people have for this particular machine and the memories that are wrapped up in it.
Now, if you look at this unit, and again, I'm guessing this is the main unit that was the one that most people had. The keyboard in this thing is kind of, if you haven't ever used one of these, it's kind of a rubbery sort of key.
It's not a membrane keyboard.
It's not. It's I don't know. It's almost like a calculator, or I mean, I felt these are big rubbery keys. What else do you think that had these? Do you think everything on top of your head?
No.
The layout of these is It's not the best, is it?
It's. I feel like they just kind of crammed as many keys as they could onto that surface.
Yeah, and so if you're sitting down to go typing, you may be up to your neck in trouble. Now, I'm sure some people got to be excellent typists on this, but I mean, just from someone coming out of nowhere, it would be tough
Now,
sledding.
you can tell that this machine was designed for the coder in mind, because not only does it have your normal keys on the buttons, but you also have a bevy of commands that go in different programming commands that are hotkeyed to the system.
It is. If you look at this, and I don't know how we can get it on camera if you've never seen one. I'm sure you can find a picture. It has 4 billion words on it. I mean, it's
there's at least 3 different things that each key can do, and sometimes even more than that.
Yeah, some of these have like 5 things.
Yeah.
And then they've got, on top of that, the keys have numbers or letters. Then there's other stuff on here, commands. Then there's other words. And then there's stuff above and below the keys. I mean, this is
They made up for the fact that you can't actually type on it by just giving you shortcuts for everything.
What do you think about, is this the busiest keyboard of all time?
Yes, undoubtedly.
And then what offsets all this insanity is the beautiful and lovely rainbow here in the corner.
That's right.
Which I think, in terms of aesthetics, the look, it's very pleasing, isn't it?
It's got the look.
Yeah, well, wow. It's got like your expansion in the back. I mean, it's pretty plain Jane. It's not like there's a crap load of connectors on it.
Well, and that's one of the things that made people crazy when this machine came out, is that you had to buy an adapter just to plug in a joystick. You had to buy a Kensington or Kenning. I can't say it right, but anyway, a special adapter just to plug in a joystick. It's sort of the Mac before the Mac was a thing.
Have you seen the joystick for this thing? I guess there was one main manufacturer.
Boy, I don't think I've ever seen a dedicated Spectrum joystick.
It's quite an interesting little machine, and again, the size of it is attractive. I mean, despite the fact that this is that old, I mean, this is very small. I mean, and it's as small as it's packed. It's packed with goodness.
That's right.
And I think it's a very neat looking unit. So, whoops, I just dropped over everything. These things came out, and I believe by '93 they were selling these things for 125 pounds, which God only knows what that is today. And they were going to sell the Timex version in the U.S. for $220, which I'm guessing that's somewhere in the ballpark of the conversion. And they just didn't catch on over here. Again, why you would not make these compatible with the incredible library that was already available is baffling. Then again, it's not like Timex is known for their computer prowess.
Right.
So it shows you that. Now, we had a look just to see what these are going for on the eBay right now. Straight up, and what do we find, Boatster?
The ones that are selling that are available to us U.S. customers are selling for about $100, $100 shipped. So it is still a highly desirable console or computer, mostly I think due to the fact that here in the States they are as rare as hen's teeth.
Yeah, and like I said, until we got this one in the mail, we'd never seen one in person, and we never touched one. So it's been great. We've had to fight and fight and fight with the video, but we always do. That seems like what we do.
That's what we do.
European stuff. So we picked a couple games to play on this thing this week, and I will go ahead and lead the parade this time around. And today we're going to go with Deathchase. Now, Deathchase, I'll be honest. I looked over a bunch. I didn't want to be biased or get thrown into something. I just want to pick a game that had a title that sounded cool. I have no prior knowledge of Deathchase. I've never seen Deathchase before this week. I'd never heard of Deathchase. So when I'm looking through the titles, I'm like, look at this, Deathchase. That sounds great. Bam, I'm in. I didn't know what it was, right? So little did I know that I was actually picking one of the most revered Spectrum games ever made. Did you know that?
No.
And had you ever heard of Deathchase? No. So Deathchase came out in 1983. It was published by an outfit called Micromega. And it was programmed by a guy, and I'm going to try to get this guy's name right, Mervyn J. Estcourt. This guy is sort of a mystery man, which I'll get into him a little bit later, but he did some games for Micromega. This game runs on the 16K, so that's something to bear in mind. This is a 16K game. The premise of this game is pretty simple. It's your standard fare, basically. It's a the war has happened, society has fallen, and you are basically a mercenary. You are cruising the vast forests and in search of people to mow down to get their stuff. I mean, that's pretty much all you need to know. Go out, shoot guys. Now, when you start this game up, there's a little, I don't know, I guess you'd call it a ditty. There's kind of a really cool screen with a motorcycle and stuff. And
I like that. The opening screen is very well drawn.
Yeah. And the screen's flashed. It's crazy time. And I will tell you, gentle listeners and viewers, this is one of the first times I'd ever played anything on the Spectrum. I had tried a couple things, so this was like my entry into the computer. And so this comes up, and what I'm looking at is something that looks like the front of, let's say, a speeder bike or something. And I see off in the distance some like sticks, basically. I'm like, what am I looking at here? And you hit the button, and your guy takes off. And so what you're basically looking at is you're sitting on a motorcycle, and you are driving through the woods. All right, simple premise. And you are not the hunted, you are the hunter. You are out to violently kill a couple bikers. You've got like a blue biker and a yellow biker. And the whole game is trying to shoot them. When you shoot them both, that part of the level ends.
And you're working on your night
and
moves.
you progress. This is one of the weird games. I'm trying to think if there's ever been a game where you were the bad guy effectively, and you could only die and the people you're hunting can't hurt you or kill you in any way. So that right there is unusual. The only thing that can kill you in this game is hitting a tree, which that'll do it sometimes. Some of my favorite people, Sonny Bono, unfortunately passed away when he hit a tree, so it'll definitely kill you. And on a motorbike at this speed, it'll definitely kill you. So on the first level, I cruised through and I knocked these guys off, and I thought, okay, it's not too bad. You don't get the feel for this game. I'll be honest. When I first loaded this up, I looked at it. I was like, this doesn't look that good. It didn't look interesting to me. I was wrong, because the more I played it, the more I didn't want to stop playing. I played the crap out of this game all week long. There's something. There's a genius in the way this game is rendered. You've got to remember that this is a 16K game, okay? Even my Coco had 64K or 32K for the lower end ones. So this is as basic as you can go. And for this fellow to put out a game that is in 3D, which it is, the trees come at you and they look like trees, and they come out and they grow like they should. It's actually quite a phenomenal feat. The drivers are the other bikes are sort of darting around, depending on how close you get to them. They're darting around in the back, and you're trying to get up on them. The fact of the matter is, at first I thought, well, heck, I'll just kind of slow down. But when you slow down, you can't catch them. So you have to go as fast as you can, basically, to get through these things. Now, occasionally, something else will happen in the background. A helicopter or a tank will show up. To the best of my knowledge, as far as I got in the game, the tank and the helicopter can't hurt you.
Right. You can blow them up.
You can blow them up, but they can't hurt you. And they just sort of, just show up. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know why a guy on a bike is blowing up a tank. Which is,
he's got some very advanced weaponry on that
It seems
thing.
like you would hunt tanks.
Right.
They would have much more stuff than the bikers. The bikers you're chasing do they look like bikers to you, Boat? I mean, they look.
I thought the representation was pretty good.
It was okay.
You look at it's sort of like a road what's the super hang-on sort of perspective.
Yeah, I couldn't quite tell if the guys that you're chasing were actually darting in and out of the trees. They're sort of up to the point where I can't quite tell, but I know. One thing I like with this game is you've got the ability to move pretty much wherever you want. And it makes a difference because you can sort of see a clearing up ahead to the right, and you can kind of whip your bike into the clearing, and then you've got some space to really hone in on these bad guys or good guys earlier and take them down. Something else I learned pretty quick is that you, as your bike goes, so go your shots. You can once you shoot a bullet, for the little time it takes to get there, you can twist your bike to the right or the left, and the bullet will kind of, you know what I'm saying,
You
go
can steer it a little bit.
That's right. That's right.
That's
And
an old Chinese proverb, by the way. As your bike goes, so goes your shots.
It's from Yamaha. So once you complete the first part of stage 1, you go to the night. You go to the night mission basically, and it's the exact same game, but it's dark. Right? I think I like the night ones better. I don't know why. Maybe it was easier for me to see.
I think it's got a little more atmosphere. Sort of, it's like Night Driver, you know.
This is, yeah, I never thought about it, but yeah, it's sort of like that. Except there's no trees in Night Driver. What's the one where you're avoiding hitting the tombstones?
Death Race.
There you go. Very similar. So once you complete the second level, which is the night one, then you go back to the light, and it just goes back and forth, and you go up a stage. I believe I think it was 8 stages, and then you eventually go back. Now, every stage becomes denser and denser with forest. That's the key to the game, really. At first, it's not too bad, but it's funny. My first game of this was probably the second best game I had because I didn't know what to expect, and so I was just loose and easy. I was just cruising down through there. Now, I've heard people say that this game is best played with the keyboard. I actually had to emulate this on my original Xbox of all things, but it played great. And used the Xbox controller, and the controller did pretty well. So I didn't get a chance to try it with the keyboard, but I've heard that that's the way to go. When you get into a level that's really foresty, you really get a sensation that you're going to die soon because these trees come out and you have to look way down to see which way to go. And you get to a certain point in the game, at least I did, about level 5, where you give up on shooting. That's over. If you get one of them because you get lucky, all I was doing was trying not to hit a tree. And then if a guy got into my view, I would just hit the fire button as fast as I could. But so the levels would go on forever because I couldn't get a shot without getting hit. Something else I learned pretty early on is you should always slow down when you complete a level. For at least I did, because if you're going, I like to slow down once I've shot the last guy so I can see what's going to be in front of me, because when the night comes, it picks up exactly from the point you're at. And the worst situation to be in is to be like this far from a tree, and as soon as the night comes, whack, you go right in the tree.
End, yeah.
And did you ever have that happen? Yeah. So that can be frustrating. Let's talk about the sound. The Spectrum, I don't think, was known for its quality sound, and this game has the most grating, I don't want to call it music, I don't want to call it sound, I want to call it a noise. There's a noise. In the future, your motorbike, it runs like death. I mean, it sounds horrible. And so eventually I just turned it down pretty far. It was unbearably bad, the sound was. I mean, I'm not going to hold that against it. They were playing the hand they're dealt. Like I said, the Spectrum, I believe the sound is actually, it's built right into the, is it built right into the console? I played this on emulator, so I'm not even sure. Yeah. But man, what did you think of the?
Yeah, I felt whenever I play a game like this on the Spectrum, because I play a lot of Spectrum games. Yeah, I just feel so bad for the poor kid's family. You know, they bought him this thing and they can't have peace anymore because you can't turn it off.
Yeah,
it's there.
Yeah, you're right. And the thing is, this is one of those games that gets you to keep playing. I swear to you, when I loaded this up, I'm like, listen, I'm going to play this a few times. It looks real simple. I'll get the feel of it pretty quick. And I played the crap out of it. I just played it's a lot. You know what it reminded me of was when we did Drag Race way back. It's a simple game, and the concept's simple, but I just could not. Sometimes simple is good. And I just played it. It's one of those things that I would pick it up and play it. I played it quite a bit in the past week. And did I get any better? Yeah, I did. But I mean, it's a twitchy sort of game that I'm sure people are very good at it, and there may be patterns and stuff that I don't know. But I'm assuming the trees are just random. Did you see? I mean, how did you fare?
I think the trees are they're randomly generated,
right,
in some way. I did pretty okay until I died. You know, I never felt like, I thought that the difficulty ramped up in a good way.
Yeah.
I was able to get a couple rounds in before things really started to heat up, which I want. You know, I want early success in a game. I don't want to immediately be pounded into the ground.
Yeah, I agree.
And so this game is amazing. I mean, when you consider the size of the program itself and how smooth, you know, it feels.
Yeah.
When I first saw this, I didn't have high hopes. To me, you know, just looking at screenshots before I played, I was like, oh, it's like a, you know, Return of the Jedi speeder bike sort of thing. And I figured it was going to run like crap at a really low frame rate.
Yeah.
But man, this game was really, aside from the sound, was really a joy to play.
It was. And now, a little bit about the fellow that programmed it, this Escort. I would have loved to have found a interview or something with this guy, because apparently he was quite a genius in the early days of the Spectrum. But he sort of fell off the earth. He did a game. He did 3 games for Micromega. He did a game called Luna Crabs, and he did Deathchase, and he did a game called Full Throttle. All right. I didn't play the other games. But I read that that Luna Crabs is pretty good, and that it was the first Spectre game, according to an interview I read, that had some sort of 3D aspect to it. Mm-hmm. I can't confirm that, but that's what I read. I also read that of the 3, Deathchase was not the biggest seller, which is his game Full Throttle was their biggest seller, which I've not seen it, but apparently there's a progression from each to each that they get a little bit better. So, but Full Throttle doesn't seem to have had the impact that Deathchase did. From all accounts, this fellow was one of your bedroom programmers that had sprung up in that era. I looked up just a little bit on Micromega, the publisher of this. They published a lot of stuff for the spec. And some of this, again, if you're like me and you haven't played most of this stuff, it doesn't really have a meaning. Just a couple of the things, like I said, they mentioned they did the 3 games, Full Throttle, and this one. They also did Missile Man, Gulp 2, A Day in the Life, Jasper. Have you heard any of these?
No. I'm sure a lot of these things never saw the light of day outside the ZX Spectrum.
Right. And they were based at the Lavender Hill, London. I don't know if you know where that's at.
That sounds fancy.
It does, doesn't it? It sounds nice.
Where do you live? I live over on Lavender Hill.
Yeah, what are we guys? Like, I live on Mud Mountain.
That's exactly what we've got.
not nearly the same. It's funny. This game has been remade and redone a bunch of times, and sequels, and people. The one I looked at and actually played, it was on the Atari computer. There was a version. I'm guessing this was an unofficial version, because I have no way to know if they got real ones made. But someone did a version of this for the Atari 8-bits, and the sound on it's great, and it's smooth as silk. And when you turn, the trees sort of angle. But the downfall of it is it's in black and white, which is kind of strange that they would go that route. And there may be a reason for it, or maybe just a fella doing it. That's just the way he did it. But they had several pseudo sequels and stuff, and it was hard for me to tell. I don't think any of them were officially. There may have been 1 or 2 that were officially, had some sort of backing. But who can tell? And since this guy sort of was gone, and the company's been gone for a long time, so I have a feeling they were just sort of fan based or picked up. But the Atari one, it was pretty good. It ran a little faster. Being in black and white was a little kind of off putting.
Yeah.
So this one is not. This one's a nice color, and this one has a feeling when you really get moving. I'm trying to think what I could compare it to. It's very it made me very nervous, if you want the truth, because there are so many trees and you have to concentrate so hard. Have
There's
you
a
played a game like this where you have to concentrate so hard, so long?
It really doesn't let up.
No,
really
it doesn't.
let up. Yeah.
It's crazy.
You
man.
know, it's comparable to, it's like take the most intense section of a driving game and make that one section the entire game.
It's like when you pass someone on pole position at a curve.
Imagine that happening all the time.
So I looked this one up on eBay. And by the way, I should mention, this got licensed by Timex, which we talked about them earlier, for the American Timex Sinclair. And they had a great name. I wonder if I can wrote that down. It was called like Cycleside or something like that.
Ooh,
but anyway, it failed horribly. It did not do well. So on eBay, Psychopath. That's what it was called.
That's nothing like Cycleside.
Psychopath, that's even better.
That Cycleside sounds cool. It's like homicide, but on a
psychopath,
okay.
because you're a psychopath.
Yeah.
You get it? Come on, boat. See, that's why it failed.
That's right. They should have gone with.
So on eBay, you could pick up a copy of this in the UK with a pack of gum. Everybody's got the tapes of this thing. $8.50. It's like I saw it for $8.50 and a pack of 4 other games.
Wow.
So I mean and it's $7. You know, cheap as chips, as they say. You can even get a copy in the US for $22. It is not Psychopath. Sadly, I could not find anyone that has sold Psychopath anytime recently, so you're not going to get Psychopath anytime soon. This thing reviewed pretty well back in the day. Now, of course, I'm unfamiliar, among other things, with ZX Spectrum magazines or reviewing outfits. We know the Amiga ones pretty well. We know the American stuff pretty well, but I had no idea. So I just kind of looked up some various,
Let me see. I bet I know. So there's your Sinclair. Do you have that one?
Yes.
Okay.
You got one.
There's Crash.
Yes, I got that one.
I think that's all I know.
That's good, Bode. So, Crash from '84. They said it was a dangerously addictive to play. They're right. They gave it a 82. The personal computer games. All right. It's essential purchase 80. The other one you mentioned, I'm going to go through a few of these. Your Sinclair, they gave it a 60, and they didn't like it that much actually. They thought it was they just think it was very good. They said it was also too expensive. They thought it should be cheaper. Now this, which is funny because this
wasn't it like £5 originally?
The original price was £6.95.
Wow.
Okay, that's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
What is that? $10, something like that.
Maybe that now we know why the consoles did not take off in England.
Yeah.
Because they were complaining that their games cost.
Well, they just thought this should have been released as a budget title. I guess is their point. Now this was re-released as a classic. For £3, and the budget price was £3. So £3, what is that? $5?
That is less than many things.
You could do far worse with your $5, and then pick this bad boy up. But overall, in summary, a total freaking surprise. Again, if you look at this with modern eyes, you've got to consider the time it was put together and the incredible aptitude of the programmer to use 16K of memory to produce something that was quick, that simulated 3D, and I thought it was top shelf. I'm as surprised as I've ever been with anything we've ever done was this game, because I was ready to pound it down. I should also mention in closing, this game on some lists is regarded as the number one ZX Spectrum game of all time.
Really?
So, yeah. Color me surprised.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
No, I mean, and this isn't like Billy Joe's list. These are like big deals. This game is very well regarded. I mean, again, I'm sure people at the house are like, oh, yeah, he picked Deathchase. Everyone knows that's a household name. Well, it ain't over here. I can tell you that, brother. We had no idea. I mean, I'd heard of your game. You know, but I just picked this one out because I thought I had a cool name.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I'm a 17-year-old boy. So there you go, Bo. Any closing thoughts on the Deathchase?
You've summed it up perfectly.
All right, man. Take it over.
Okay, so my game was a game called Skool Daze.
Ooh.
Okay, so this game was released by a company called Microsphere in 1984. It was released for both the ZX Spectrum and the Commodore 64. Okay, so here's a little bit about Microsphere. They started out in 1982, and this is the husband and wife team. Okay, and they noticed that there was a market for I guess they started out making business software, but they recognized the possibility of writing games, so they started coming out with games. And so they got a family friend named Keith Warrington to help them with the art. And Helen, this guy's wife, she used to be a teacher, and so they used her experience as a teacher with this too. So this game sold very well. This game sold 50,000 copies, which is pretty impressive. It garnered a sequel called Back to School in 1985, and it was also a very, very well-reviewed game. It's interesting, the Reedy family, they said that they used no compiler or assembler. They designed everything on graph paper and on pencil and paper, and then they typed in the raw, hand-assembled Z80 machine code right into the computer.
They're sharper than I am.
So that is hardcore.
Wow.
So the company, went on for a while. The last game that they released was an adventure, a detective game called Contact Sam Cruise, and it did not sell well. They cite piracy as a result, which is believable. But they also never expanded their team. They had no desire to grow as a company, so they hung it up after that. So anyway, Skool Daze. This game is quite possibly the earliest classroom computer simulation of all time.
It's got to be one of the few, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's not many. There's not many. You play a boy named Eric. However, you can change your name. You can change all of the names in this game, and you are trying to. You've got a school report due. Your grade is so bad that your parents can't see it. So what you have to do is you have to find your way into the headmaster's study and unlock the safe and retrieve your paper so your parents don't see the score. All right, so that is the main goal of the game, but there is a lot going on here. Okay, so you are placed in this school, and the school day begins, and it basically just runs forever. This is a never-ending school day.
What a nightmare.
So the normal things happen. Kids go to classes. There's an instructor that comes in. Learning takes place. There's free time in between. There's library time, study hall, and things like that. And your job is to negotiate your way through the school day while collecting shields that are hung up on the walls. Once you collect enough shields, then the door opens, you can unlock the safe and get your report card. Okay, so what makes this game cool is that the entire school is kind of displayed within sections on the board. So you have a 3-story schoolhouse, and the game is programmed such that the computer characters are all fully going about their business while the game is going on. So there's, I guess you could call it AI. There are things going on. Even if you don't do anything, things still continue to happen in this game. You have abilities in this game. You can jump. You have a catapult that you can use to fling things at other students or other teachers. Basically what you're trying to do is you have to use that, for example, to reach some of the higher shields. You have to fire your catapult at a teacher, jump on the teacher's head and get up there and jump on their back and grab it. Now, what is in your way? What's in your way are bullies. There are teachers who are out to get you. And so these guys stand in your way. And what the teachers do is they assign you lines, okay? So this is something that I think happened a lot more in British schools than in American schools, where as punishment, you were assigned to write a sentence a certain number of times.
Yeah.
Now, this is definitely a punishment that I've given as a teacher before.
Yep.
But if I looked at one of my students and said 15 lines, they would give me a blank stare.
Yeah.
They would have no idea what I was talking
It's
about.
the old, I've done it on the chalkboard, and I've also done it in the notebook.
Right.
It's the old Bart Simpson in the opening.
Yes. Yeah.
blah blah blah.
Yeah. So anyway, that is really when you do something wrong, you get assigned lines, and the game ends when you are assigned 10,000 lines.
And they do assign you some hefty numbered lines.
I think
like away it's like 300 lines.
Right, I think 300 lines is the minimum. So you can get assigned lines for firing your catapult at a teacher, of course, if you're not sitting in your seat when instruction is going on, or if you're found outside the classroom when class is in session. So when you get into a classroom, you can sit down, but there are never enough seats for all of the boys. So one of the other boys will come up against you and throw you out of your seat, and you got to get back in there before the teacher notices what's going on. It's a very charming game. It almost looks like a comic book. It's like a comic strip. There's stuff written on the boards. You can write your own messages on there. There's a lot of just really neat touches. I like this game because it's totally unique. It's something different. You don't see it. You never really saw it again after Skool Daze until you got into the 2000s, and you have a game like Bully by Rockstar.
That I've played a lot.
A lot of people see that as the spiritual successor.
I can see why, and I'll tell you right out of the gate, you can rename everyone, which is great. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, if I would have been in school and this had come along, man, I would have had a blast, because you could just name everything, the people who are the bullies,
right,
your buddies,
right,
or whatever, and that's awesome. I had heard about this game quite a bit over the years, but it's one I never looked at. And there's a lot going on in this game. It's not the easiest game. I mean, you can just start running around, and that's what I did. I just kind of. Eventually I read about the shields, mm-hmm. but at first I had no idea what I was doing.
So but you can have a lot of fun just running around.
First thing I did, bam, shot the good looking teacher.
Uh-huh.
That I shot him right in the hiney, and then bam, 300 lines and stuff before I'd even hardly gotten the joystick warm. It's cool to like whack people. It's cool to like the message on the chalkboard changes. Mm-hmm. The kids, there's a and I don't know how much went into this, but the kids and the teachers make their way to different parts of the school. They have their classes. They do it's quite remarkable. I don't know what all they did to get that to happen.
Yeah.
I'd actually played the other game in this series first.
Really? Back to school.
Yeah, and I remember it because now it's been a long time, but I looked at it a long time ago, and I can't remember why. Maybe I thought it was based on a movie, but. There's this school, and then there's like another school,
that's right. There's
like
a girls' school.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And then there's like a big playground in the middle, but they're really colorful. Gosh, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, and I was reading what you had to do to actually complete the mission, and man, it ain't easy. You got to get those shields like a couple times to actually go there and get your paper, I don't know. It looks tough. I don't know how you could ever do it. I mean, apparently it would take a good while. Mm-hmm. But I like the fact you have to get on top of other students or teachers to get some of the shields. You have to be kind of clever. There's so many intricate things in this that I had no idea what I was doing. But how far did you come along in this thing? Had you played this before this week?
No, I played it mostly a couple weeks ago when I did one of my big ZX Spectrum streams. Mm-hmm. And I played it multiple times on multiple streams because it took me multiple times to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
One thing that really helped me was watching Kim Justice's review of this whole series.
Yeah.
And so if you're at all interested in actually knowing about this game and not listening to two fools talk about it, watch her video because she takes care of business. This game also has a sequel or a remake that came out in '99, which is fantastic. It's called Skool Daze '99, I think.
What was it on?
And it was on the PC. It was on the PC.
Okay.
And it updates the graphics, but they still have a cool retro look. It's pixelized graphics. There's a million different things to do. I think there's dialogue in it, but it doesn't lose the charm of the original. I played that a lot. Unfortunately, it's one of those PC titles that's no longer playable on a modern PC, but you can play it through DOSBox, which is what I did. Yeah. I looked up this game on eBay. It's sold for around, I think you can get it for about 13 pounds. There are no copies for sale in the United States, obviously.
Yeah.
But it was not, I figured that I'd have just like thousands and thousands of these pop up on eBay, but there was only one that was sold recently. So it's not as common as I thought.
The tapes do not seem to retain their value like the disc. The discs do. Now, when you have a box like this, I don't know how many games got a cool box, because I know a lot of the ones that just came in little gimmicks like this, right? I mean, that's
right.
So maybe these are.
I think that the earlier games probably had more extensive packaging.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one is one you could probably sit down with and really kind of get in bed with and take a while to fool with it. And the sequel to this, like I said, it was really interesting. I actually. I fiddled with that a long time ago, so when I had at least some recollection of what was going on when I had to go at this one. But yeah, both are really neat.
Yeah, I really like this game a lot. I'm going to try Back to School next because I have not played that one, but I'm going to do it with with sort of a guide opening the next screen.
A wise choice.
All right. Well, that's all I have for Skool Daze.
All right, you ready to spin the wheel and make the deal,
Let's
Mr.
spin
Boat?
the wheel.
So last week, if you'll recall, we had the chat challenge come up. So, Bud, what are we gonna get? What are we gonna get involved with this week on the wheel?
This week we are going to add a new system to the wheel. We are going to add, if you wouldn't mind holding that for me. I'm going to reach inside here, and we're going to pull out the Sega SG-1000.
Wow. Which we don't own one of these, and I've never seen one in my life.
So it's.
Have you ever seen an SG-1000?
I've actually played a lot of it on the Pi.
But you've never actually seen one.
No, of course not. Of course not.
I don't know how. I guess those were released in the States. I don't even know.
I don't think it did.
I guess we'll find out when it comes out.
This only had a Japanese release, but
wacky.
So we're gonna set this up here.
All right, Bud, if you can do the honors, and I'll hold the gimmick here.
Let's see.
Fire it up.
There we go.
Here we go.
Oh, actually, you can see it better. There we go. Looks like, oh boy, chat, you're in luck. It is another chat
You're kidding
choice.
Me. Okay.
All right. It looks like Amstrad is the winner.
Amstrad. Okay, so we're going back to the well.
Thank you to Paul, Duncan, and Edvin.
Okay. Well, Boat, let's see what we chose. You had the lovely, that one. So what do you got, Boat?
We're going to play a game called Spin Dizzy.
Two of these I've played before, so I'm going to go with the one I've never heard of. We're going to play something called Gryzor.
Oh, Gryzor and Spin Dizzy.
Have you ever heard of Gryzor?
No, never.
All right, so there you go, Gryzor.
All right, guys.
We are on Patreon, Boat, and anyone that would like to chip in $1 or $2 or £1, if you will, feel free to float a few buckaroos our way. We always appreciate it. And if you donate a couple bucks, you can get yourself into the Discord chat. Always a good time.
That's right. The Discord's hopping 24/7.
Yes, it is. And of course, check us out on YouTube. Check out our various accoutrements. Can you name all of our social media outlets, Boat?
We got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google Plus. We're everywhere.
We're everywhere.
And don't forget to check out our sister show, Amigos, the Amiga podcast.
Yes, sir. Always a good time. If you want to hear us play British stuff every time, as opposed to 2 times in a row. So with that in mind, next week we're going to have some Amstrad action. And until then,
adios.
Aaron and John making a new podcast.